And welcome to another episode of the Free Thinkers Podcast, the show that believes in free speech, original thought, and desire for truth. We hope everyone's had a great week. We still have a little bit more to go, but what we've done, this is our third podcast in a row. Sometimes we go 3 weeks without doing one, but now it's our third in a row. I'm here with Meme Joe Green again. Meme Joe, how are you tonight?
Hey, doing good. Pulled over now, see somebody in front of me that's waving at me, so I had to wave and not be rude.
Are you still at Saddle Creek?
No, I escaped with my manhood intact.
Oh, that was hilarious last night. If you did not listen to the episode last night, Meme Joe was on the way back from Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he pulled over in a very, very sketchy area. I'll let you describe the fear that you've had, but if you haven't Googled it, Google Saddle Creek, Lakeland, Florida. There's some pretty good.
Well, you may have to, because there's actually a corporation named that, so you may have to Google.
Yeah, that's true.
Saddle Creek crime or Saddle Creek Lakeland crime, and then you'll see all the crazy stuff that happens over there. It's a notorious place for our sheriff to make big arrests and stings for all kind of crazy, weird stuff. But it was the only place I could pull over last night, because if you pull over on the side of the road, there's a bunch of zombie creeper people that walk up and down that road, and it's super dark and crazy, and my nerves wouldn't take it.
Everybody there is a Florida man. That's the first thing in the news article when that happens, Florida man.
Yeah, I'm surprised more people don't get hit on that road, because they're just walk and ride bikes just right along the roadway. But anyway, that being said, I survived last night.
Well, glad you're here. Glad you're able to join us again, and that you're not in danger. So I tell you what, we talked the other night about positivity. We talked about making a concerted effort to fill your minds with positive things. And again, I think right now with everything going on, that is a genuine need that a lot of people have. And I was talking to Lady Putfark yesterday, and I was telling her about, what I'm trying to do is, to really have a concerted effort to put more positivity in my mind. And she's like, that's great, because I can tell when, you're focused and you're just honed in on a lot of these stories that you read and all this other stuff. And it's like, it's so true. And it's good to hear that from somebody. And we listened to that Tim Sanders podcast yesterday. We went over to Tampa and we listened to that. And that was just such a breath of fresh air. I mean, and I told her, I said, we had the opportunity on the way over here to listen to something that would just, blow your mind about what the government's doing or about what all this other stuff's doing. Or we could listen to this that can help her business, my business, yourself spiritually, emotionally, that kind of thing. And it's really about making those decisions. And so, like we talked about the other night, there was a book by John Gordon called Feed the Positive Dog. And there was an article written by Tiffany Cruikshank, and she talks about, kind of breaking these steps down and what that looks like and what that means and how that can help us. And so I kind of wanted to kind of go through that a little bit first, but what do you think about that so far?
Yeah, I mean, that's just something, certainly as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, we wake up most days just with so many things being thrown at us. Nothing's working out right. Your anxiety level can soar through the roof with just one bad phone call. And it's really, really important that you maintain a really strong mind, feed your mind with good, positive stuff, because the devil just wants to fill it with all types of doubts and condemnation and just telling you that everything's not going to work out. And that's really not how God works. He's for you, not against you. And to have that positive mindset going into every phone call, just even before you even answer the phone call, having already that positive mindset is going to shape that conversation. It's going to make it just so much better than it could be if you even went in neutral, and certainly better than if you go in with already like an anxious, stressed out mindset. So it's just so important to put the right stuff in your mind early on. First thing you do when you wake up, just tell God what you're thankful for, and just understand all the blessings that we do have, and then start your day that way. And then try your best to not have that phone near you. Give yourself at least 30 minutes where that phone cannot infiltrate your life, because certainly that's a playground for the devil right there. He's going to put something negative in your mind, get you sidetracked, get you distracted, so that even if you did want to sit down and read your Bible or something like that, whatever you just saw on the phone is going to be mentally distracting to you, when you should be being able to focus and concentrate on connecting with him.
Yeah, and I think it's true that, taking that first little bit of time and slowly waking up instead of a bam, immediately checking it, and just really your stress levels go through the roof. And I mean, I'm guilty of it. I'm not here to tell you that I'm perfect about that. A lot of times, you wake up and you see those notifications on your phone and you start checking them and that kind of thing. But today was great. I saw the notifications on my phone. A lot of work got done while I was sleeping, so that was great. But to kind of recap what we talked about the other day, I mean, the story's about a parable, and it talks about a man goes to the village wise woman about what's troubling him. He says, "I feel like there are two dogs inside me. One dog is positive, loving, kind, and enthusiastic. The other is mean-spirited, jealous, and negative. They fight all the time. I don't know who is going to win." The woman thinks for a moment and says, "I know who's going to win. The one you feed the most. So feed the positive dog." Says each of us has a positive dog and a negative dog inside. The key is to feed the right dog so it becomes bigger and stronger. That means each day we must make a conscious choice to feed ourselves with positive energy rather than negativity. The actions are simple. We just need to make them a habit. Here are some ways to feed the positive dog. And I think, I mean, I don't want to get into the thing of where people are upset because we're talking about this and they want to hear about, gung-ho news and all this other stuff. And if that's the case, I mean, there are a lot of other podcasts to do that. I mean, to be honest with you, like we always said, I'm not as angry as a Dan Bongino, and I don't talk as fast as Ben Shapiro. And that's really not what we're called to do here. I mean, like I said, we want to give you the knowledge that you can take action upon, but we also, want to give you, real life tips to and practices that can really encourage and bolster, what you're doing. And again, there's going to be a lot of times we're going to cover certain aspects and certain things that happen in the news, but we really want to tackle that with an angle to educate you, which then empowers you to do something about it, which is either to let your representatives hear you and hear, your opinion of it, to show up and, take action that way, or do something with your family to prepare, whether it's to, stock food up, to plant a garden, to prepare for something. I mean, that's kind of what we're here to do. So that's kind of our mission. That's really what our goal is. And again, we want, at the end of this podcast, we want you to feel better than, when you hit play at the very beginning.
Well, anything we talk about on this podcast is nothing more than just how we talk all day long. So when we're talking back and forth throughout the day on the phone, or basically people are just joining in on our regular conversations. This is exactly what we talk about. And then we sprinkle in politics, and we sprinkle in religious stuff, and we sprinkle in nerdy tech stuff. And so we're talking about everything. And that's all this podcast is just other people joining in on our regular conversations.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And I mean, we are, I mean, that's our passion. We're passionate about political things. We're passionate about current events. We're passionate about faith. We're passionate about, learning and growing, as a person. I know that, a lot of times when we got into the persuasion principles and we did things like that, we got into, the Robert Kiyosaki type things to help, with, money management and investments and that kind of thing. So, I mean, it's a variety of things that we're passionate about. And that's something that on that podcast that Tim Sanders said that really stuck out to me. Cause I remember when we were in Ireland a couple of years ago, you'd go in a pub and you'd sit there and you just talk to random people. And I would never ask somebody what they did for a living. And that was a great thing, because that's the last thing you ever want to ask people over there, because they don't care about that. They want to know about you as a person and that kind of thing. And in the US, the first thing we do is we ask people what they do for a living, because we can size them up very easily that way. But one of the things that Tim Sanders said is, don't ask people what they do for a living. Say, what are you working on that really makes you passionate? Because it doesn't have to be where you derive your income from. If you have a passion project or something you're very, very passionate about, that's what people need to be asked, because that's going to make them come fully alive. And you can really learn a lot about someone that way rather than what they do, because what they do could be out of obligation. It could be for a variety of reasons, but you're not always going to derive what they're passionate about and really learn and grow and to understand and know that person from that question. So I thought that was a great nugget of wisdom that he said, is to just ask people, what are you working on that really makes you excited, or that really, invigorates you, what you're working on. I think it's important because probably like you, most people, when we meet them, it's a little chit chat here and there, and then boom, that question comes right up.
Yeah, and then you're basically, your identity is whatever your career is.
Mm-hmm.
And if you were to ask most people, what did you want to be when you grew up, and now what are you? It's, I guarantee you, a high percentage of the time, it's going to be two different things.
Yeah.
And the things that you're most passionate about that you don't do for a career, certainly for me, I do forestry, and I like forestry in general, but it's not what I'm most passionate about. It's something that I try to be good at and try to do a good job for our customers and our clients and that type of stuff and all the people that we work with. But, I was kind of came up a little bit more from a creative background. I like filmmaking and that type of stuff. You and I have worked on several things together throughout the years, and you know what our passions are as far as that goes. And hopefully in the future, we'll be able to create some short films, maybe get into some film festivals and that type of thing. That would be something that I would really, really be passionate about, would much rather talk about, and could talk about with such much more excitement than if somebody starts at a party, starts asking me about forestry. I think about forestry all day long. I want to stop thinking about forestry when I'm not doing it. And I want to talk about fun stuff. So, like I said, forestry is okay, but that's not kind of really how God created me. It is a career, and it's been a great career, but it's not what defines me.
Yeah, I mean, and that's interesting you say that, because that's what we talked about after we did the podcast on Sunday. We went out to lunch. We were talking about just the amount of hours that if you take, let's just say 2 to 3 hours a day of listening to current event or news type podcast, if you transition that into something that you can learn a new skill or language or course or something of that nature, imagine where you'd be, just in a matter of a couple months, by transitioning the same allotted time from something that it's informative, but it could be, negative at that point. Not to say to just eliminate that, but to eliminate the quantity of that you're absorbing, and transition that into something that is more of like an educational module that you can do. And it's like, one of the things I always like to do is to pick, every year something new to learn. And right now, I mean, I'm going through ground school to get my pilot's license. That's something I've always wanted to do. I've always had an excuse why I didn't do it, and now I'm doing it. And so, I mean, there's a lot of online training you can do for that. And I've been doing that this week. I mean, I've kind of, instead of listening to certain podcasts that I do, I focused and doing something, of that sort. There's as far as for work, there's a program that I need to learn. I've put it off. There's an hour and 30-minute tutorial that I'm going to have to go through. And that's something that it's not going to take me any more time. I'm just transitioning the already allotted time that I would have spent doing something else, and transitioning it into, sharpening my skills and making that happen.
Well, we learned that you don't necessarily have to have any type of flight school to land a plane. I mean, you saw that. Well, you're the one that told me about that news story.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're at liberty to say too much about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Not a whole lot. Not a whole lot about that. That was a guy I know, the guy that landed that plane in Florida. He's the brother of a good friend of mine, and he has the house next to us in Georgia. We used to hunt together and do a lot of the other stuff. But anyway, that's that's.
That was a crazy story.
Yeah, gotta learn trial by fire and make it happen. But one of the things I think there's like 11 different things we can do, and I wanted to kind of go through these one by one and get your feedback and just kind of see where it goes. But there's like a couple different things that you can do that really help. And again, you might not want to do any of these. You might want to do all of them. You might pick a couple of them. But the first one is to take a thank you walk. And Basic says the research shows you can't be stressed and thankful at the same time. So when you combine gratitude with physical exercise, you give yourself a double boost of positive energy. You flood your brain and body with positive emotions and natural antidepressants that uplift you rather than the stress hormones that drain and slowly kill you. And I know that just getting out and exercising is such a powerful thing. The last couple of days, I have a treadmill here because I used to do a lot of running and tore my meniscus, and my knee's never been the same. But on the treadmill, absorbs that shock, and I love to do that. It's a good outlet. It's a good way to get away. And I listen to a podcast, but on a treadmill you can watch it too, so it's great. But just to get out in nature on a walk and no matter what you're doing through that, and just kind of just reflect on what you're thankful for. Because I'm telling you, sometimes we're overwhelmed by the negativity and the bad news all around us, but we have so much to be thankful for. And again, I'm talking to myself on this because it's a daily reminder. You have to really just lay it out on all the amazing things and the opportunities that we have simply by even living in this country. We hit the lottery, to be honest with you, just because of that. And, to stack a lot of different things on top of that. But I think that's a great exercise to do, is just, take a thank you walk and just really realize and reiterate, the blessings that we all have, in our lives. And, just be grateful for that.
Yeah, I'm actually very lucky to be a forester in that sense, because I get to be outside, out in the woods, wilderness all the time, and I get to see things that most people that work in cubicles and inside offices don't get to see. And sometimes you see the craziest stuff, between the wild hogs and the gators and panthers and bears. Hopefully not snakes. I've got this computer propped up on my snake chaps right now, here inside the truck. But I try not to wear those as much as possible. They're super hot. But anyways, I get to see so much really cool stuff out there, and the fresh air and the trees, and it's just amazing to have that as a job.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how my uncle kind of convinced me to go into forestry. He was retiring out of forestry, and I was a young college student, undecided, not knowing what career to make. He took me up in the mountains up in Tennessee, and it was just beautiful up there. And he goes, "This is my office." And I said, "Sold. I can do that. I can't do a cubicle, but I can do this."
Yeah, I love the mountains up in North Carolina. We go up there to the Highlands area, and last year we were super fortunate to be able to see the leaves change up there. And it's very hard to pick that, and we got to make it. Actually, I did a podcast from up there, and that was just absolutely gorgeous. So that's definitely, you definitely can't beat that. But again, I mean, even exercise is such a good thing, because that is, I mean, when we're going through all the COVID type things, I mean, that was the second comorbidity, was lack of exercise. I mean, behind obesity, as far as exercise was such a good thing that helped mitigate your risk of COVID. And again, I mean, I think they're trying to bring it back. So that's a good thing. Just stay active. Yeah. Vitamin D. I mean, you get that naturally from the sun, and you stay active, it gets your blood flowing. I mean, I feel a lot more invigorated this week because I've exercised. I've run, 2.5, 3 miles on the treadmill, and it's just, it feels great. And the second thing is, it says devote a day of gratitude. A number of studies show that grateful people tend to be more optimistic, which in turn increases immune function and improves heart health and happiness, according to Robert Emmons, a graduate expert and psychology professor at the University of California, Davis. Approach a task with the idea that you get to do it instead of have to do it. And that's one of the things I remember, I get to do this, not that I have to do it. And I think with with what I do, I love it. I love what I do. And a lot of times I just get so just amazed and enamored that I get to do what I do on a daily basis, and I get paid, pretty well for it. And it's just, it's so cool to just wake up and think you get to wake up and create. I mean, you get to just make things new. You get to help people. You get to do that. And one of the, speaking of just making a day of gratitude, I remember when I was growing up, I had a Vietnamese hair, or the lady that did my hair was Vietnamese. Her name was Miss K. And she was one of the neatest ladies. She actually escaped from Vietnam during the whole conflict, and she saw a lot of horrific things. And she was just a completely, fully devoted follower of Christ. I mean, the lady was just sold out for Jesus. And what is, I mean, a wonderful example of what it is, because I mean, when you talk about coming from that situation and seeing what she did, and the risk that she took, and to get here, and just loves America. But I remember sitting in the chair one day, and we'd always talk about, spiritual things and that kind of thing. And she would always come around the chair to look at me to talk. She would never talk over, standing behind me. And she'd always come around, and she goes, "I want to tell you something." And I said, "Okay, what's that?" She goes, "I have prayed all day, but I never asked God for one thing. I just thanked him all day." And she goes, I want to do that once a week, because I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And that always stuck with me. I mean, I imagine I was probably 15, 16, and I'll never forget her, and just the look in her face, the joy in her heart, and her eyes and her face when she was talking about that day, she just praised God and thanked God, and just really just focused on that instead of asking for anything from God. And I think it's, I always kid around with my hand, because, with the dogs, a lot of times they want your hand to be in this posture to where you have something in your hand. And, I had another dog, Duke, who liked when my hand was like this, because I could, connect with him and pet him. And so I always thought it was interesting when you take your hand, upside down, when you have something in it. A lot of dogs or animals want this, what you can give them. And a lot of other dogs just wanted it to be where you can touch them and connect with them and stuff. And I think a lot of times God probably feels that way too. And he's just, the heavenly piggy bank. So I thought that was really neat. And that's something that always stuck with me about Miss Kay, is that day of gratitude, and just not asking for anything, but just being so grateful and thanking and giving back.
Yeah, and I think we lose perspective a lot of times unless we travel a lot and we go to. We spend a lot of time in third world countries and war torn countries and that type of thing. And when you see how people live and what they don't have over there, yet they still are somewhat happy. Um, and if they knew how much opportunity was over here, given what they do with such little resources there, what they might be able to do if they came to this land with all the opportunities that there are. I mean, it's just insane. That's probably why first generation immigrants come over here and are so powerful and so strong,
Yeah.
and they thrive. And the longer we're here, generation after generation, we start having this kind of this air of expectation, and it's all about us.
Mm-hmm.
And and then we feel like we're being ripped off if everything doesn't work out just perfect for us. And
Yeah.
just get very self-focused. So I think it's good to travel and keep good perspective on just how good we've got it here, even if everything's not working out just perfect for us here.
Yeah. I'll never forget. We were in Cambodia, and we went to Phnom Penh, which is one of the worst garbage dumps in the world. They call it the closest place to hell on earth. I think it was like the New York Times went over there and did an article about that. We were doing a project, like with the Trash Mountain Project. We were making, documentary films about kids and families that grow up and live in the trash dump themselves. And you talk about just not knowing kind of the difference of what we have. I remember we walked out on this dump, and of course, it's just just a ton of garbage just piled up. And this little kid was back there, and he was kind of running around in the dump, and he was just, just having the time of his life. And he ran all the way up the top, and he wanted to make sure we stood there and watched him. And he went to the top of this trash pile, and he found a plastic car bumper. Well, he sits in that, and that's his rocket ship sled right down at the bottom. So this little kid sits in there and just goes straight down to the bottom. And he was going pretty fast. And man, he hit something and busted it. And I'm like, oh man, he gets up and is like, yeah, and just wants to run back to the front. So, I mean, he didn't have a video game. He didn't have iPad or anything. He was just, he didn't know what he didn't have. And I think sometimes the lack of knowledge of all this other stuff sometimes makes you happier with the simple things. And so I'll never forget that. at all. And that kind of is a good segue right to our next point. It says, find more ways to laugh and smile. It says they say children laugh about 400 times a day and adults laugh only about 25 times a day. I think you and I laugh more than 25 times a day on a phone call. Perhaps we need to be more like children and smile and laugh more. Research shows that smiling produces more serotonin in your brain, and laughter reduces stress, increases your immune system, and causes your body to release feel good endorphins. That is the absolute truth. It's fun to laugh. It's fun to have fun. I mean, I try to have fun probably too much, but I turn everything into something fun, or try to.
I found some old, remember the old high eight
Oh, yeah.
cameras or 8 millimeter cameras? That must have been what I had whenever we were in Tanzania. And you should see some of we were at some of these like church services and just dirt floors and hot, no air, obviously no AC because there's really no walls. And so, but just hot in there. But people are dressed up as much as they can be dressed up in there. And they're just laughing and having fun and worshiping and celebrating. And then afterwards, everybody's hanging out and just fun and laughing. It was great. I mean, they'd be sitting over there chewing on stalks of sugar cane, just cracking jokes, and just it was hilarious. So yeah, it was. You can just sit there and kind of like look at your own life and go, "Gosh, how is it I'm not this happy
Yeah.
with all that I've got and all the opportunities I have?" And look at these folks here; they are just like going crazy, just having fun.
Mm-hmm.
And so, kind of puts things in perspective there.
Yeah, I honestly think that that's one of the things I am so thankful for, is that my family embraces that. I mean, full tilt. We have some of the funnest times together sitting around the table. And I mean, on both sides of my family, we just have always loved to laugh and just have fun. And some of the greatest memories that I can have, that I have, are just sitting around, spending time with family, just laughing. I mean, there's memories that will come right up. I could see, the set, and it's not necessarily about going places or buying things and stuff. It's the fun times of just, being around together and just laughing. And like I said, I'm incredibly thankful and grateful. A lot of my family members just have incredible senses of humor, and that's been a tremendous blessing, and it's just fun. I mean, there's not a time that I don't ever think we've got together, even in sad times, even around, the loss of, other family. We still have, fun around that, just because we knew the personality of that person that, we're there to mourn, but, we remember the great times, the fun times. And that's something that I'm definitely thankful for on that. The One of the other things too they say to do is to celebrate your success of the day. Said according to sports psychologist Jim Fannin, the last 30 minutes of every waking day is recorded and replayed that night by your subconscious minds 15 to 17 times. This replay occurs 5 times more often than any other thought at any other time. Thus, it's important to go to bed thinking positive thoughts. If you go to bed thinking and feeling like a champion, you wake up thinking and feeling like a champion who's optimistic and ready to win. I don't know what I do the last 30 minutes of every waking day, because I don't know. I can't remember. I'm probably watching some tutorial or trying to learn something, but I think it is very important. There was what it was this, like, I don't want to say a success seminar, but it was like a leadership conference we were doing, and one of the speakers was kind of an unknown guy, but he stole the show, and that's one of the things that he really emphasized, that if you're among a team or if you're among a family, to celebrate your successes. And I think that's, it's good to congratulate people. It's good to lift people up when they do well, when they win something, or even just, if they have a great day, just to lift them up. And it goes back to that man's search for meaning, to be in a community of like-minded people that love and support you. So I think that's something we could all do, is just to lift each other up, to say you're happy about, somebody doing something, great, or just having a great day, and just really celebrating those successes.
And all through the day, especially if you're working like a team environment, just celebrating little wins all
Mm-hmm.
throughout the day. There's a motivational speaker. Her name is Mel Robbins,
Oh,
no
yeah.
relation to Tony Robbins. But anyway, she's got a book, and I think it's called High Five. And she goes and explains that you can almost tell, or no, I think statistics show that you can tell, say, like on an NBA team, which team's going to make it to the championships, which ones are going to, have the winning record. And it's because like every time somebody does something good on the court, they're high fiving each other. So they're
Mm-hmm.
getting they're celebrating those little wins. They're getting those little dopamine hits constantly throughout the game. And she just says that there's just something about that, celebrating all those little wins throughout the day. And statistically, you can see that the more they do the high fives in the game, whether it's basketball, football, whatever, that those teams tend to go further as far as the winning record goes. And so that was kind of interesting. So if you work in a team environment in a company or on a team or a sports team, that type of thing, just make sure you're celebrating those wins. Celebrate every time somebody does something good, just that little bit of encouragement. Um, and I think it makes a big difference. I know that I can tell even when I'm being positive, like to the guys that I'm rolling with and BJJ, um, guys that are new, guys that are brand new white belts, and they come in there and they think they're doing terrible, but you compliment them on just a couple little things that they did well during that match. You could just see they love that, and then it helps them feel better about coming back the next night, the next night, the next night, just celebrating those little wins.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. And you never know the absolute need that some people have in their life for just a little bit,
Yeah.
just a little bit of that. And I think that there was a guy that I knew. I don't know if you ever met him, Mr. Bubba, that lived next to me up there in Georgia before he passed away. But he grew up on a
I didn't mean it.
farm, and he would always he'd say his goal was to drive the straightest roads that he could, because that was before GPS and that kind of thing. So his goal was to drive the straightest roads ever, and he'd always get his he'd think he just drove the straightest road, and he'd get his dad out there, and he'd say, "Dad, that's a pretty good straight road right there, wasn't it?" And his dad look at him and it's like, "Yeah, it probably could be a little better," and walk away. And that's what he told me up into his in his 70s. He goes, all I wanted was to him to say, "That's a good job. You did a good job driving that road."
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's kind of sad when you hear that, but I think it gives us a reminder at this point that there may be someone that you need to celebrate, and you just never know the one person that's never heard something good or right about that you just that will make the biggest difference of their lives. But you talk about the high fives and what Mel Robbins, she's an incredible resource. I'd recommend anybody looking her up on YouTube or Audible or something like that. But the next thing is to spend time with positive people. You're talking about giving high fives and everything. It says, according to a survey from the National Opinion Research Center, the more friends you have, the happier you are. Other studies show that close relationships promote health, enhance longevity, and enhances performance. And what I also think, it doesn't say on this, but I think it changes the frequencies around us, because you've seen those tables that you can put like salt or sand on and change the frequency, and they make different shapes. And you've seen that the water molecules, when you can say love, and they turn into something, and when you say hate, it turns into something else. And I believe that when you do surround yourself with positive people, that changes the frequency that's surrounding us, and kind of what we're doing. And again, it's the same thing. Like we talk about, this whole point is to fill yourself with positive things. I think the positive around you just changes the energy and the frequency around you. And that's definitely not, anti-biblical. I think that all the frequency things that I've ever studied points right back to creation, when God said, "Let there be light, let there be," the separating the waters from the sky. When you look at, there's a really cool YouTube video that you can put a water hose and tape it under a speaker. And if you turn the frequencies, the water actually does stair steps. And so when you talk about how the Red Sea parted, that's physically possible through different frequencies. And so, you can actually use that kind of thing to promote and enhance the factualness of the Bible. And so, again, I think that surrounding yourself with positive people not only, helps, is a better influence, but again, I think it changes the whole frequency of your cellular structure, to be honest with you.
Yeah, light is energy, and the energy that you come off with around other people, if it's positive energy or negative energy, that really does affect everyone. And if you can just tell in the body language, just in the facial expressions, little people are really in tune with that. You could show up and you can kind of posture around a little bit, but your face will sometimes tell what's going on. And I can remember a long time ago, things were just really falling apart for me, and I had actually even been diagnosed with a tumor. And at the time, I was waiting on the diagnosis for it. Fortunately, it came back benign; nothing was wrong. But for a period of time there, while I was in one of these, I guess the waiting period for them to come back and say, "All right, it's cancer," or "It's nothing," or whatever, you could just see it on my face, how stressed out I was waiting on that verdict to come back. Well, I was in the middle of a business meeting and I was doing my best to try to put on a good face and try to make it like nothing was wrong. And this guy, he was so perceptive and he just kept going. He goes, "There's something off with you. There's something wrong with you. What's going on in your life?" And he just really kept pressing. And I didn't really want to tell him in the middle of a business meeting because I'm trying to do business with him. And anyway, we got through it, but he could tell the whole time, no matter how much I tried to fake it. So that energy that you put off, it affects people and people are in tune with it.
Yeah, and I think that honestly, having when you surround yourself with positive people, they not only celebrate your successes, but they empathize with you when you're going through something, and
Hmm.
they are there with you on the ups and downs. And I think you really know around who you definitely have in your life when you can go through and that's kind of a foxhole situation. But the next thing is to share the gift of kindness. It says Sonia, I don't even want to attempt this last name, but Sonia, author of the How of Happiness, has been researching different techniques and strategies that increase our happiness. Now, what's interesting is most of these are clinical studies that show that these things actually do work. Now, if I say clinical studies, we might get booted off of a platform, but anyway, um, Liu Bermisky, that I tried that, has found that engaging in 5 acts of kindness in a single day, participants in her studies experience a measurable boost in happiness. So it's not only good for others, but it's good for you. And that's kind of what we talk about with reciprocity, the persuasion principle. We talk about reciprocity. The Bible says, give and it shall be given to you. You should, I mean, when you sow into someone's life, the harvest kind of comes back into yours as well. It's within that law. But if you share that gift, if you share the gift of kindness, like you talk about, like a lifestyle of giving, that kind of thing. I mean, it definitely makes yourself feel better by blessing someone else, and there's a lot of power in that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and you become known as the person that you're either like a person that uplifts people, or you can be like a Eeyore
Mm-hmm.
from Winnie the Pooh there.
Yeah.
So you don't want to be known as the Eeyore. And when you go into a room and everything's about you, it's like, here I am, versus you walk in the room and you go, there you are. And you just start focusing on those people and just really starting to ask them questions about their lives and being positive and encouraging and that type of stuff. You'll be the type of person that people want to be around.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt. No doubt. The next tip is smell the roses. I guess you can literally smell the roses. This is according to Barbara Fredrickson, author of Positivity. Research again, that spending time in nature boosts your positivity. Now, that's kind of, you hit on it earlier as far as working in the woods and that kind of thing. But I think that there's ions and there's just a lot of things on a molecular structure that are just that's why this research works. And one of the things that I've kind of read a little bit of research on is grounding. Have you ever heard of grounding, like by walking barefoot?
Yeah,
How it kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
does that, and
Yeah,
it
I
just
think I think that's real.
it is. I mean, as far as the polarity of your body, it kind of resets a lot of different things in your body just by walking, barefoot or sitting somewhere and touching the ground. I mean, we're created from the ground or the dirt, the dust, and we go back to that. So I think by reconnecting and grounding with that, I think that's definitely something that my mom's always told about. The grounding and bare feet. I am a person that I don't walk barefoot very much. I wear flip flops inside all the time, but I sometimes when I'm up in Georgia or whatever, I'll do that. I'll sit in the chair and do that. But I think too, like with nature. I mean, I like to go hunting and sometimes even it's on some of these evenings that you have just this incredible sunset and it's just cool to watch the woods, at night when all the animals are out trying to get, their little evening meal and doing whatever they want. And sometimes that's even better than the hunt, to be honest with you. It's just watching nature, like in the morning, watching the woods wake up and just, the nature come alive and just, it's pretty neat to do that. And that's kind of probably the majority of the reason I like to do that. I just like to be out in nature, and it's, you can just breathe a little bit better, and it's absolutely beautiful. And you get to do it all the time.
Yeah, I do. But I'll tell you, talk about the grounding. One of the things that I wish that I did more of and could do more of, but like I said, you live somewhere so long, you start taking things for granted. But we live so close to beaches here,
Mm-hmm.
and to walk around on that sand with the ocean, and think about people that surf all the time and they're out there at the beach all the time, walking around barefooted. That's got to be healthy.
Yeah.
That's got to really improve your health for doing that.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. I think there's a lot of people that go to Winn-Dixie around here too, that
Oh
they do
God, Walmart.
they do a lot of grounding in there because there's a lot of people without
Yeah,
shoes on
that's the truth.
in there. Oh man.
That's
I
gross.
just, yeah, I can't do that. Grounding is about grass and stuff. It's not about inside, whatever. But the next one is take out your telescope. The telescope represents our dreams of the future, and according to Barbara Fredrickson's research, clarifying them is a simple way to boost positivity. I think that's a big thing. Again, I'm very, very big on, writing your goals down, what you want. I need to actually probably get back into that a lot more. I used to be big time on that earlier. It was actually interesting. Back when I was in film school, my mom and I went to one of these Peter Lowe seminars, and they had, Tony Robbins, all these other people there. And one of the breakout workshops we went to was writing goals down. And I probably 10 years later, maybe even longer, I found the sheet on the hotel ballroom like card, and I'd written my goals down. And I'm just like going down through these, and like almost everyone very descriptive, were just came out. And so I think there's power in transitioning from what you just keep up here to writing them down and make them plain, to see. And I mean, we talked about that with your, choosing your one word by just having, just focusing on one word. But I don't think that's in an absence for actually writing goals down. I think that's in the absence of these sometimes unrealistic resolutions at the beginning of the year. But I think, you can have daily goals, you can have weekly goals, monthly, long term. These are kind of big. When they talk about a telescope, they're talking about long, big time goals. And I think that's great to have, because it kind of gives you kind of a kind of something to work forward or work towards and to really focus on. And I think when they're written down subconsciously, you'll take steps to get there because you've actually taken the time and the effort to write those down.
Haven't you ever heard of people talking about making a dream board where this is my dream house, this is my dream
Mm-hmm.
wife, this is my dream, whatever, all that different type stuff when they're younger, and then eventually, like, they've got this life, and then they discover this old dream board that they totally forgot that they did, and they start looking and go, wow, that's my house, that's my wife, that's my kids, that's my job, that's my this and that. Everything that they ever dreamed about, they manifested in their lives just out of that imagination, and they just fulfilled it. So
Yeah.
my son is going down. I'm gonna see if turning on lights will help at all. Not much. That one.
It's getting more mysterious.
I know. Yeah. All right. Well, light didn't help me too much.
No, I think you're right though. I think making those goals is a big deal. The next one is something I have to really, really, really work on, and that's lose yourself in the moment. It says when we are engaged in an activity in the present moment and doing something that interests us, we feel more positive. Not that I don't do that, but I think, to me, how I interpret that is to be all in to what you're doing in that moment. And I think sometimes we're so busy with what we do that we're about 80% in and 20% or 10% thinking about something over here, 10% thinking about something over here. I remember so many different people that met certainly, Donald Trump's one of them. There's a couple other leaders that they met, and they said that these people are, there's no one else in the world when you're talking to them. It's you and him, And so that's a lot of people said that about Trump, that when you're talking to Trump, Trump is 100% focused on you, nothing else.
See, that one surprises me because I figure wherever he goes, he's thinking about himself
Yeah.
or the next thing that pops up, that the next Twitter thing that pops up so he can rant and rave
Yeah.
about it. Like he saw so many squirrels and like he's talking about one topic and next thing you know, it's like, oh
I
look, a
know.
squirrel.
I think I'm the guy that's the squirrel, because it's like, and I make a cognizant effort to do that. Like when I'm talking to somebody, I'm really trying to do that, but I just am noticing everything around, and I really, really need to focus on that a little bit more. But I think that's a great thing when you just pour yourself into the moment. There's been times I've been able to do that, but just pour yourself into the moment and focus on that and enjoy that and just soak up everything that moment offers you. Because I mean, for every tick of the clock, I mean, it's one less tick that we have here, and we just need to enjoy and savor every single one of them. So to me, that's how I interpreted that, as far as doing that. And that's something that I need to focus on and work on a little bit better. The next one is to be a coach. Coaches bring out the best in others. The best coaches mentor, encourage, praise, inspire, and lead with optimism and positivity. Sports is such a big deal. And of course, you don't have to be in sports to be a coach, but I think that's where we've seen a lot of coaches within the sports world. And the ones that are incredibly successful, they go back to some of these principles we're talking about before. They're really, really, really strict. They have high standards, but they also are quick to praise and to point out and to, do high fives and to celebrate the victories with each other. I'm friends with one of the greatest high school football coaches that's ever lived, Coach Bill Castle from Lakeland High School. He's won, 6 state championships, 2 USA Today national championships, coached dozens of NFL players, and won countless, oh gosh, I don't know what you call it, district titles and that kind of thing. But I'll never forget, as far as the way that the things that he taught me are, one night he won one of the biggest games of his life. I mean, you're talking, he was celebrated, I think, for his 500th win. And the next day I went to the school because I used to help him with some of the video and that kind of thing. And at 6:30, he's there editing the film by himself. He's the only one there. The assistant coaches aren't there or whatever. He's there by himself doing that. And that taught me by example, that's how you lead. You lead from the front, and you're there getting everything ready so your assistants can be a success. So he kind of took the pyramid, like I said, the leadership deal, and it wasn't everybody down here serve me. He took it and turned it upside down, and he said, I'm going to do the work here to serve you. And so he's always been a great example and friend to me.
Yeah, I think he's got more championship rings than Tom Brady. I think you had all the rings that you were doing video of one time, and it looked insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, and just anything like being a teacher, leading a youth group, any of that type of stuff, it puts you in a position where you really have to know your topic and you really have to know stuff in order to be able to teach it. And so the more you're a coach, the more you're a teacher, and passing on that wisdom to those younger kids, just all the experiences and all the trials and tribulations that you've had, maybe you can save them from a few. You can't save them from all of them because all of us have to learn from experience, but maybe you can save them from a few.
Yeah. Yep. And the last one.
Good. It's the last one because it's about to be dark here.
Says every day pray. Scientific research shows that daily prayer reduces stress, boosts positive energy, and promotes health, vitality, and longevity. When you're feeling stressed to the max, stop, be still, plug into the ultimate power, and recharge. I think that's something we all should do more. I mean, even when Jesus was here on his earthly ministry, he would go away and pray, go by himself. And I was listening to a podcast today, and it talked about the difference in that is, when you're isolated, or you're just, kind of going away instead of just, being in an isolated. I'm probably saying that wrong, but anyway, there's two ways to look at it. When you're constantly surround yourself with people, that's good, instead of when you isolate yourself. But I think it's also good to just kind of break away and get kind of silent for a little bit. I mean, we're in a rat race, and I think a lot of times you can just go and you can, just focus on that and just, and pray. And that, I think that's a incredible gift and blessing we have in our lives.
We definitely do not like silence. We don't like quiet times. And to be able to sit there and, like you said, be in a secluded location and to just center yourself and be quiet and meditate and not just talk and pray, but also to listen. That is so hard, especially when we're so used to having constant noise around us and constant entertainment and just always being accessible to everyone. It is just such a discipline to be able to quiet yourself and get away.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a discipline. You really have to work at that, and then it becomes easier over time. But I am terrible at that. I'll admit that right away. I am terrible at being silent and listening for that still small voice.
Yeah, there's so many times where we have this vision of what that's going to look like. And I know a lot of times, like, I can sit here and say, okay, I can't wait to go up to Georgia and sit on the front porch. It's going to be quiet. It's going to be silent. And I'll go out there on the front porch, and in about 45 seconds, I'll think, okay, I need to be doing something. Like, it's too quiet. I need to go sweep, or I need to, check something on my phone, my email. It's just so hard to commit to that. And I think that's why, and again, most of this list I'm working on like hardcore, or trying to. And, what I'm really trying to do is to get up earlier in the morning. And that means going to bed a little bit earlier. But, to get up and make, like, front load my schedule to where it's time for me and things that I can, do in the morning for me, rather than, like you said, that invasive, phone call or the email or whatever we need to respond to, and, to be proactive about that. So I really, I was on the treadmill the other day, and I just was thinking, what people need to hear. And I think that positivity right now is more needed than at any time. We have access to tools that just allow us to, as great as free speech is, sometimes it doesn't make us free inside in our mind. It kind of, puts us in bondage to negativity. And so again, that's all we can do here, is just to hopefully encourage some people to do that. And I know it's encouraging me to do that. So anyway, that's kind of what we're certainly trying to do.
Yeah, and like I said, we'll have plenty to talk about politics and all that other stuff the rest of this week, and all the current events and news and that type of thing. But every now and then it's time to just kind of take a chill pill from all that, get our spirits right, get our minds right, and that way we're able to absorb all that news and negativity in the right way, so that we can think clearly through it, and
Absolutely.
see our way through it.
Absolutely. Well, we encourage you to reach out to us, follow us on Gab, and subscribe to us on any place podcasts are. We're on tv.gab.com. That's our home there. We're also on Rumble and Brighteon. And email me, rusty@freethinkerspodcast.com. I'm curious to see what you think about this. If any of this has been great, has been helpful, we'd love to hear it. And again, we're here to just encourage and try to just bring that knowledge so that you can take the wisdom from that, put it into action, and do better. But until next time, I know Meme Joe over there is getting a little dark, and it's reminding you of the Saddle Creek lake sitting. But anyway, we certainly appreciate everybody, and we will be back tomorrow with an audio podcast. You got to subscribe so you can get those notifications on that. Anyway, go to freethinkerspodcast.com. That's where you can sign up for that stuff. But until next time, you have anything else to say?
That's it. Good night, everyone.
All right. Good night.